Yo, what is up guys? Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So, August the 16th in Saudi Arabia, Moses Itauma versus Dillian White has been signed. It's official, it's going down. 12 round fight, 12-0 Moses Itauma versus 33-1 Dillian White. Former world title challenger Dillian White, a guy who has fought a fair few top contenders over his career to mixed results, but a guy who's very experienced, albeit on the downward slide of his career. Itauma, viewed as, I guess, the biggest prospect in heavyweight boxing, the best prospect in heavyweight boxing according to most people, and I guess when you're like the brightest prospect in heavyweight boxing, that makes you the brightest prospect in boxing, considering the heavyweight division is the marquee division. But a lot of hype surrounding Moses Itauma, and this is a step up of sorts. I say of sorts because, Dillian White, let's be real, has seen better days. Dillian White, all three of his losses have come by brutal knockout to Povetkin, to AJ, and to Tyson Fury. Had some hard fights aside from that as well. Oscar Rivas, Joey Parker, Chisora twice. Had some very hard fights along the way as well, taken a lot of punishment. These days it seems that Dillian White's chin is deteriorating. He's slowing down. The last couple of fights or so of Dillian White's career hasn't been in good shape. He's had a couple of fights since that Tyson Fury knockout loss, but, well, he's had 3 fights since that Fury defeat. One of which was against American dude, I forgot his name, Jermaine Franklin, where, that was a close fight. That was a competitive fight. I felt Dillian White won, but, he low-key went life and death with Jermaine Franklin, who, albeit a well-schooled, tough heavyweight, he's not world-class. Not a world-class heavyweight. After that, he fought the corpse of Christian Hammer. Nothing really to see there. And in his last fight, he fought Ebenezer Tete, the Ghanaian heavyweight, a heavyweight who Dubois knocked out in a round like 6 years ago, whatever. Ebenezer Tete, absolutely useless, and it took Dillian White, 7 rounds to get rid of this guy, and he didn't even knock him out. He was pulled out by his corner in the end. Dillian White looked utterly horrible in that fight. He looked slow, he looked ponderous, overweight. Everything about him looked off, I would say. And bear in mind, Ebenezer Tete, in his fight after that, got knocked out by Fraser Clark in a round. Big Fraze, who got knocked out by Fabio Wardley in a round. Nobody really rates Fraser Clark like that, and he was able to get rid of this guy quick time. But Dillian White went 7 rounds with this guy and looked poor doing so. It's clear that Dillian White is on the downward slide in his career, and I think this is basically Dillian's last payday, his last rodeo, so to speak. The only thing he's got going for him is the experience factor, and the fact that, when he uncorks that left hand, that left hook, when it lands, it does carry power. That left hook is a powerful shot. But in this fight with Itauma's got all of the advantages. He's got the momentum, he's the A-side, he's quicker in every way. Hand speed, foot speed, head movement, reactions, quicker in every department. And I think the matchmaking here is quite obvious. Dillian White is still a name, whether people like it or not. He's fought at a certain level, and the powers that be, Frank Warren, the matchmakers, they view him as spent. They view him as shot and made to order at this stage in time for Moses Itauma. Despite that, I do think Dillian White is majorly on the decline. Despite that, I still think it's a good fight for Itauma at this stage, because White is going to bring a different level of eyes to your fight. There's going to be a bit more pressure. It's going to be more of a main event build-up, which we haven't seen Itauma deal with. He's going to be the star of the show. We've not seen that. And, Dillian still has that power to be wary of. So, I think it's a good fight for Itauma in terms of development, to be honest. I think it's a fine fight for him. When I was thinking about Itauma's next fight, I thought they was going to chuck him in there with the Albanian dude who fought on the Ipswich card, Nelson Heiser. Somebody like that, you know. That's who I thought we would see him in there with. So it's a level up from that, maybe. But yeah, I mean, Dillian White in this fight, really, for me, it's quite simple. He has to ask questions early on. He has to risk it. He has to roll the dice. He has to let his nuts hang. Whatever phrase you want to use, he has to risk it. He has to pull it on Moses Itauma very early on. Make him doubt himself. Make him feel that inexperience. Make him make mistakes. Put that anxiety into him. He needs to approach this fight gung-ho, bull in a china shop. Look for that left hook. First punch you fucking throw. You know, he needs to go in there and fight like a barroom drunk. Like he's fighting outside of a kebab shop on a Friday night after a few Guinnesses. That's what he needs to do. No tip-tap boxing, no trying to box with Itauma and letting Itauma into the fight, because he's just going to get outsped. He's going to get outboxed. He's going to get beaten to the punch. He's got to crowd Itauma and try and test those whiskers, try and test that chin, test that body even with that left hook. Get on him, you know, make it rough and horrible, make it a grimy, ugly fight. And do it from round one with taking every risk possible. And, you know, he needs to hope he can land that left hook and it makes a dent. You know, this is career on the line, really, for Dillian White. He's been out in the wilderness for a little while now after that Joshua fight fell through. Of course, he failed a drug test. It kind of got swept under the carpet. Fight got cancelled, but since then he's been in the wilderness. And this really, you would imagine, is Dillian White's last opportunity at the big time. So, you know, he needs to fight like this is his last fight, like his career's on the line. And he needs to be aggressive very early on from round one. And he needs to try and surprise Moses, basically. You know, listen, Moses Itauma is still very inexperienced. And while I like what I see, you can never quite tell with heavyweights. Maybe Dillian can ask a question or two. I doubt it, considering how bad Dillian's been looking. I doubt it, but he needs to try and land that power early on. I don't think this is a scientific approach for Dillian White. I think this is a career on the line approach. Risk it. Roll the dice. You know, it's up to him to rip up the script, because they've brought him in there expecting him to be shot, expecting him to be past it, to be too slow, to be too washed, you know, for the punch resistance, to be too damaged. That's what Dillian White's in there for, and he still has a name, so they're going to try and capitalise on what name value Dillian White has left. So yeah, this fight, to me, it's about the energy that Dillian approaches it with. He has to be aggressive. He has to take risks. Dillian's not a great boxer, we know. He's ragged, he's rough, but he can generate power in that left hand. He has shown toughness in the past. And he needs to go in there and try and engage in the shootout, basically. And hopefully, and he needs to hope that Moses loses his head, loses his shape, walks into a left hook. Can't box with him. You know, doesn't have the speed, doesn't have the legs. You know, he needs to put it on him, it's that simple. As for Moses, it's a good step up for him still, despite Dillian being past it. Like I said, Dillian does have power to worry about, he's experienced. Again, it's going to give him that big fight feel, so we're going to see how he responds to that. So it's a good fight for Moses still, it's a good fight. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's fine. In fact, as I said, I was expecting Moses to get an opponent who's not as interesting. So I'm happy with this fight. I'm happy with it. And the undercard is pretty decent as well. Nick Ball is defending his title, his featherweight title, against Sam Goodman, which is a decent fight. Sam Goodman is a very scrappy fighter. Of course, he was supposed to fight Inoue like 3 times, but he got injured every single time. So he's a contender, he's unbeaten. Nick Ball versus Sam Goodman is a good fight. Also at super featherweight, Anthony Kakache versus Raymond Ford. Good fight. Like it. No issue with that fight whatsoever. I actually think Raymond Ford wins that fight, by the way. I think Raymond Ford might win that fight. It's a good fight though still. And also there's Hrgovic versus Adelaide on the card as well. I've talked about that in a separate video. Weird fight, but I guess it's watchable. But yeah, anyway, share your thoughts below. Beanie Guy Del Boy. Peace.